I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out.
You want Philly?
Chase Utley, you are the man.
You come out backyard and you try to start something, you always get your butt kicked.
The prayers have been answered.
How about those Eagles, baby?
And Rio Muto can run for days.
Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
A perfect game. Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history.
All right, we are back with another Philly Talk episode, and of course, as I'm recording this, the trade deadline is over. I waited a bit just to see if any big final trades would go through, and this ended up being one of the most boring trade deadlines to happen. The only big trades we really saw were Montez Sweat. Yeah, that's his name, right? Montez Sweat from the Commanders getting traded to the Bears, and Chase Young getting traded from the Commanders to the 49ers. There was also Seattle getting Leonard Williams. And then, of course, the Vikings trading for Joshua Dobbs. And that happened because Kirk Cousins unfortunately tore his Achilles, which kind of really sucks, you know. Just a really unfortunate injury right as the Vikings were, you know, starting to turn things around. Just kind of sucks to see that happen. But yeah, you know, it was a very boring trade deadline, especially because a lot of people were just expecting a bit more, you know, especially with some of the big names that were potentially looking to get traded. You know, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry. There was even like prospects of like Saquon Barkley maybe getting traded, where the Broncos going to trade some of their guys. But it seems like a lot of teams just kind of remain complacent in a way, you know, like a lot of teams are either holding out hope for what's it called, like still making this season a success, or maybe just a lot of teams, you know, they don't feel like overreacting in a sense, you know, like the Broncos perhaps don't feel like overreacting and trading away a ton of their, you know, star players on defense, you know, or you know, the Titans don't really feel like trading away Derrick Henry just after trading away Kevin Byard, you know, or the Giants don't want to trade away Saquon Barkley, you know, but like it kind of sucks in the sense of like you were hoping to see some big change-ups. The one I'm really surprised by is Devontae Adams not getting traded, especially after yesterday's game. It really seemed like a sure thing that he was going to leave. Doesn't end up happening, you know, but other than that, looking throughout the league, nothing really interesting. You know, a lot of teams just doing what they're doing, keeping things up. I mentioned the Titans. Will Levis finally got a start, and he went off. Obviously, it was against the Falcons, but still quite the impressive debut from him. The Seahawks beat the Browns 24-20. The Ravens beat the Cardinals 31-24. The Broncos finally beat the Chiefs, snapping their like 15-game losing streak to them. The Bengals beat the Niners. That was cool to see. The Lions beat the Raiders on Monday night, you know. But, you know, pretty simple. Nothing too crazy happened throughout the league, you know. Just kind of getting used to the norm at this point. But how about we talk about the Eagles game? So, we get here to the Eagles game, facing off against the Commanders once again. And as always, just like I said when they faced them back in Week 4, gotta be careful. They're very much a tricky team to always face off against. And we'll get into that in the bad, because for whatever reason, this team is just always a struggle for the Eagles. But we walk away with the win, 38-31. We were actually down, you know, at half. But we fought back, you know. The first half wasn't the greatest stuff, but, you know, we come back and we made things look good, you know. Starting off, Jalen Hurts, 319 yards on the day, 4 touchdowns, only sacked twice. Didn't really rush this game, only had 4 attempts, didn't really get much with only 6 yards. DeAndre Swift, 57 yards on 16 attempts with a touchdown. And then, of course, you know, was a great game offensively wise. Devontae Smith, 7 for 7, 99 catches and a touchdown. A.J. Brown also perfect on the day, 8 for 8, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is now his 6th game with 125 plus yards. Just absolutely great stuff. Dallas Goedert, 36 yards on 4 catches. And we even saw Julio Jones get his first touchdown as an Eagle, a little 8-yard catch. Still very weird to see. Defensively, we saw Reed Blankenship get an interception, which is cool to see. Hassan Reddick had the lone sack, which is something we'll talk about later. But overall, it was a pretty decent game. Obviously, a great game from the offense. Saw some real great play out of Hurts and AJ. They really got it going in this game. And, they made the comeback, put themselves ahead. Saw a great fourth quarter from them where they put up 21 points. And overall, it was a good game offensively. They did some real good stuff. Defensively, you want to see a bit more. But that's all I really have to say about the offense. They did great. Kevin Byard, in his first game with us, had 7 tackles, 4 were solo. They looked real good out there. But let's get into the bad, because there's an overall discussion to be had, especially about the defensive side of this game. So, talking about the bad, like I mentioned, the defense. The biggest issue here for me is that the fact that when you look at Washington, they always, or not always, but they've been struggling this season. They're 3-5, obviously. They lost to the Giants last week. They lost to the Bears. They've lost to the Bills. They lost to us early in the year. Why is it that Sam Howell is like the most sacked quarterback in the league, I think, at this point? And yet, we've only gotten to him once in this game. He threw for 397 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then you look back in the first game. I mean, it was a bit worse, 290 yards and a touchdown. But why is it that we're letting him put up numbers like this? Now, in that first game, we did sack him 5 times. But look at that. When you look at his game log, sacked 6 times, 4 times, 9 times, 5 times, 5, 6. And then in this game, he only gets 1. This guy's been the most sacked, and yet we couldn't get any pressure on him. Why was he looking why was this team looking so great? And I saw a lot of people mentioning it too. Why is it that this Washington team only looks great when they're going against us, And it's I wish we could see better effort from our defense. We have Jahan Dotson going for 108 yards and a touchdown. Jamison Crowder, 95 and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, 63 and a touchdown. Logan Thomas, 44 and a touchdown, It's my goodness, what are we doing here? Why are we allowing them to do this great against us? Wasn't, necessarily the best performance, especially on the defensive side. Where is it? Where did I see it? Nakobe Dean had 12 tackles on the day, 11 were solo. Obviously, that's a lot of tackles, and that's good to see. He had 2 tackles for loss. But I also saw a lot of people, and I saw it when watching the various highlights. He was struggling a bit out there. But, obviously it's his first year of fully playing. So, taking some adjustment, but, hoping for improvement there. But yeah, it's no one on the defensive line could really get to Sam Howell. We couldn't stop him from passing. Some people thought we were going to lose this game, The good thing is we forced them to pass 42 times, which meant, they couldn't really get nothing going in the rushing game. B-Rob only had 59 for 10, So it's we're still doing a pretty good job of holding running games in check. But, yeah, you want to see a bit more from the defense. You don't really want to see this much of a struggle, especially as we're heading into, the upcoming game against the Cowboys, which is going to be an interesting one. But those are my only complaints so far about this game. Overall, still pretty good, 7-1, and now we just look ahead. So, looking ahead, obviously, like I said, we got the Cowboys matchup. It should be a very interesting one. Definitely got to get, a lot of pressure. Right now, as I'm looking at it, the Week 8 injury report, it seems Bradley Roby will be out. Jordan Davis is questionable. Everyone else seems to be looking to make a showing, such as Reed Blankenship. He was a full participant. James Bradbury was still kind of limited, but there's nothing to say that he won't play. On the Cowboys side of things, it says Tyron Smith was limited in practice and he is questionable. If he ends up going out, that once again means, you got to capitalize on the defensive side, especially the defensive line. But the one thing you look for is just you want Jalen and AJ to stay consistent, You want AJ to just keep going, Right now on the season, he has 939 yards, 5 touchdowns on 60 catches. Hurts has 2,140 yards on 13 touchdowns. Now, obviously, the big thing there is the turnovers, whether it's fumbles or interceptions, but still, they're doing pretty good. The run game, you want to see that get going a bit more in this Dallas game. And obviously, it's about, holding Dak down. I think this should be the first time since... is this the first time since early 2022? Let me see. Is this the first time? Hold on, I'm really trying to look and see, cause no, that was Cooper Rush. Man, is this the first time since 2021 that Dak and Jalen are gonna face off? I think so. That's weird. There's a game missing here. Oh wait, no, that's the game, cause that game Jalen was playing. Yeah, so this is gonna be the first time we see Dak and Jalen go head to head since 2021. Now, obviously the team was very different then, which is why Dallas got a big win over us then. But hoping to see a bit better from Jalen, and it's a different team. Where is this one at? This one's at home. I might be inclined to say it's a loss, just kind of like I said in my season predictions, because I don't know what it is with Philly and Dallas. They just like beating each other in their homes, so I'd probably think it's a loss. I think I said it was going to be a loss in my season prediction too, but with the way they're rolling now, I could realistically see, the Eagles pulling this one off and getting a win, but it's all going to be about, not letting Dak, get his passes down to his receivers. Really just got to focus on CeeDee Lamb, really, and containing Tony Pollard, which should be easy for our defense. They've done a real great job of, holding the rushing game down. Hoping to see a big game from Kevin Byard. And, speaking more on the trade deadline, I am a tiny bit upset to not see the Eagles maybe get some just like depth moves out there. But I know they recouped some picks, but I was a bit upset about that. But at the same time, with getting Kevin Byard, obviously can't be upset, and I'm obviously happy. Like I said, I wish we could have seen a bit more from this trade deadline. I'm a bit disappointed by it, but it seems like a lot of teams are confident in pushing forward. And just to sort of extend this episode and extend this section, one topic I want to shortly talk on that I saw someone bring up, and I think it's interesting to really analyze and look at. Someone was saying that this may be the first year that we might see a non-quarterback MVP win it, simply because none of the quarterbacks really have outstanding stats. Mahomes been playing kind of iffy. Hurts has all those turnovers. Joe Burrow's barely looking to get into it, and my whole thing is like, even if he puts up some great stats year's end, it's kind of hard to ignore the fact of like, that there was a portion of the year where he just wasn't doing that great. It'd be like the same thing with Mahomes, where it's like if he starts playing good from here on out, or Hurts starts playing good on out, it's going to be kind of hard to justify giving him when they weren't putting up those numbers at the very start, It kind of reminds me of like the baseball MVP discussion where people were saying, that like Mookie shouldn't win it because Acuna's been doing it all year while Mookie kind of got hot later on, So it's sort of a similar argument where it's like I just wouldn't want to see some of these quarterbacks get it. Like they'd have to put up some really, big game-changing stats like in the second like half of the season for me to warrant giving them an MVP. And obviously, I've been a big advocate of non-QBs winning the MVP award for such a long time. I've come out with like videos talking about like the problem with the MVP and like what can we do to fix it, because like it's just kind of annoying that like it's a quarterback's award and a lot of these guys who have great seasons don't get the shine that they do. And this season we're seeing like a lot of great guys like, McCaffrey's having a great season. AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill are putting up some crazy seasons at wide receiver. It would be cool for once to finally see a non-quarterback win it, especially because in this case, AJ and Tyreek Hill, again, it's not like their quarterbacks are putting up crazy stats, but they're the ones putting up crazy stats. So it's a lot easier to make that argument that, they're really helping their teams out. Because, I mean, imagine this Eagles team without AJ Brown. Like, you look, obviously the first game, he still did pretty good. 79 yards on 7 catches is good. But then he has that 29-yard game against Minnesota, even though they win. And from then on, he's just been a monster. 131 yards on 9 catches, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns on 9 catches, 127 yards on 6, 131 on 7, 137 on 10 with a touchdown. 2 touchdowns, 130 yards, and 8 receptions. Some absolutely crazy stuff. Him and Tyreek Hill have really been popping off, So it would just be cool, I agree with that sort of sentiment, and I hope we do actually see it this year because we're getting some crazy good seasons from positional players. And then the second thing I want to talk about, it kind of relates to the baseball side, which we're going to talk about the Phillies real quick here, even though I know no like free agent stuff has happened, but I just want to mention that it kind of baffles me in a way, and it kind of just shows like how disrespectful sports and like business can just be. So we obviously were talking about what changes could be made to this team, and I mentioned, I mentioned myself. It's not like I'm not one of them that like mentioned the fact that like we could potentially see one of our main guys get traded, but it's just crazy to think. Like, I've seen so many people sort of switch their tones on certain guys after the season that we had, and of course with a bitter ending, you're gonna see a lot of that. But it's just wild to me that through the wild card, through the divisional round, and like the first 2 games of or really the first game of the NLCS, it was like people love Nick Castellanos. I don't think he led the team in RBIs, but he did really good. I think he had over 100 RBIs, I believe. But people, though they had their frustration in them, they were really loving him, especially throughout the playoffs. They were calling his kid the mayor of Philadelphia and all that. And then, he has that cold stretch, and now here's everyone calling for him to be traded, calling for this and that. And it's just wild to me that, like, looking at that, it's like, you guys are showing so much love to this guy and his family and all that. And, like, the moment he has one bad playoff series, well, it's not one because, last year's was pretty tough. But, like, this year's playoff run was a drastic improvement over last year's, And though it had a bitter finish, it was like, I don't know, it's just crazy to me to see how quickly we as sports fans are willing to turn on these athletes. It's the same thing with Nola, and it's the same thing with like a lot of the guys. It's just pretty crazy stuff, and I thought it was worth mentioning that, like, it's just crazy to think that, that like he just had a guy who was being so elevated by the city, and now they're ready for him to just leave and move on to the next guy, But overall, excited for the Eagles-Cowboys game, disappointed by the deadline. But, to close out, I just want to say I hope the rest of the league is happy. The Eagles heard your complaints about the brotherly shove, and now they decided that the only solution is to now run a fake brotherly shove that turned into a sweeping run from DeAndre Swift for a touchdown. So I hope you're happy, the rest of the league. I hope you're happy that you don't have to worry about potential fake brotherly shoves.